Hello, all. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, May 27th, the day after Memorial Day. Um, yeah, we're here. My week feels really off because whenever we have a Monday holiday and then Tuesday feels like Monday and so on and so on. But anyway, I'm getting into it. Hi, Valerie. It's so good to see you. I have the pleasure of working with a few more of her kids. Hi, Adam. Um, I didn't have an incredibly restful holiday weekend, but I had a good holiday weekend. Have you guys ever seen at Costco those big sheds that they have them set up? They're for outdoors gardening sheds or whatever. And they have them set up in the store and they look, oh, that looks great. And then you realize when you actually buy it, it comes in a very small box and a bazillion pieces. So yeah, that's how we spent our weekend, putting together two of those. It was quite the task and quite the test for the marriage and working together when you have two very strong people who have been independent for a lot of years. So anyway, it was good. We got them done. They look great. It was an accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment. My husband and I high-fived when we actually got it done. So, but yeah, not particularly restful, but productive and good. And of course, being mindful of what Memorial Day is really all about, and being thankful for and cognizant of the sacrifice that so many made so that we can be the country that we are today. So grateful for that as well. Charles, you are at rehearsal, but listening. That's great. Don't let us keep you from, any rehearsing you need to do, but happy to have you here. Yes, Adam, they are a wonderful idea. They are a wonderful thing and they look beautiful when they're done, but the process is quite daunting. I think the instruction pages was close to 60 pages of instructions, page by page. So much fun. Anyway, but it was a good weekend, and once again, grateful to have the resource to be able to get those sheds and to have them, and have hands and feet and legs and a mind that allow us to put them together. So hi, Mado. Hi, Allie. Good to see you. Diego is here with us. So behind the scenes, you'll see him certainly, of course. Well, you won't see him, but he is behind the scenes. He's there. Hi, Ivan. Good to see you. So I want to talk tonight. And of course, I'm always open to your questions. All right. So if you have a question that you've wanted to ask and you're kind of been waiting for a Tuesday night to be able to ask some question you've been thinking about, please ask it. And I will keep an eye on the comments and do my best to answer your questions. But I thought to start off the conversation, I want to talk pet peeves. That sounds so bad. But I actually do want to talk about a few of those things that I'm seeing repeatedly happen in auditions that I wish wouldn't happen. And so I'm going to talk about a few of those and be interested in your feedback and your thoughts as we talk through that. But so I've had the pleasure of coaching these last couple of weeks and interacting with people and working through materials. And I noticed that a recurring thing, and I talked about this a little bit last week. So hi, Sky. So my first number one, I see too much of it and I wish it wasn't happening as much. And I've talked about it, so this may feel redundant, but when we are having conversation with people as humans, we don't just stare into their eyes and not break eye contact. Because, like, even right now, I want to process some thoughts and I want to think about what I'm about to say. And it feels completely unnatural that I'm staring right into the lens or at you guys. I'm staring at you guys and not breaking eye contact. And it just doesn't feel right. Okay. This is not natural for my thought process and my human behavior to be talking like this without breaking eye contact with you and without looking away or processing something internally. All right. So my example is that the reality is, as I talk, I look around and I'm not doing it on purpose. It's my behavior of processing a thought. I turn away a little bit to almost go to a neutral space in my head that allows me to think through what I either want to say or what I'm reading. The input that I'm getting, whatever that input is, whether it's from another person, from my exterior surroundings, the space I'm actually living in, or wherever that's coming from, our brain is processing that. And so we don't just stay locked in each other's eyes. We just don't. It's not how we function. So what exactly, Jonathan, unless you're an AI robot, that's one of the reasons I say that AI won't replace actors unless actors are giving robotic performances. AI, I was just watching a show earlier with my husband, and the gentleman who was being interviewed said in the near-term future, there will be robots that can watch a YouTube video and literally mimic what they see. And I was saying to my husband, the thing is, that's the difference between actors and robots, is actors ideally are feeling in the moment that the input and the stimulus that's coming into our brains as human beings alters the way we react and what we do. So it isn't a robotic kind of a thing. It's an organic response to a situation that we're in. And that is the same with our eye contact. So I understand the idea that, you want your face to be to the camera, you want them to be able to see you, you want to be present as far as visually, but not at the expense of it looking and feeling false. Hi, Richard. Good to see you. Hi, Sam. It has been a while. It's good to see you. Brad, good to see you as well. So we're talking a few little of my, I wish they didn't happen as much as they do, my kind of pet peeves. So I am hearing from more and more actors that I've been coaching with that they are actually being told and coached to keep the eye contact with. So even if I'm over here, so say I'm doing an audition, I wouldn't look straight into camera. I would set my eye line somewhere else. But even that, if I continue to just look at there and I'm not breaking eye contact and I'm asking questions like, no, I'm not comfortable with you. I don't like where this questioning is going. I don't want to answer that question. No, this doesn't make me feel good. Like, does that seem realistic that I would just stay full on focused on this person when saying things that are so counter to that, right? You need to process. You need to go internal. You need to understand that we're looking for, as casting directors, producers, we want to see the wheels turning. We want to see you processing like a real person does in human situations. That's what we want to see. I've said this before, we want to feel like we are a fly on the wall watching real life happen, not watching a performance happen. That's when we're most engaged. And that's what separates the good from the great, is those people that make us forget we're watching an actor and we are just fully engrossed in the scene and engaged in the scene. Let's see. Megan says, hi, Beverly. This one is hard for me because my daughter, Gabby, is trained to keep eye contact so that the emotion is shown in the eyes and that the audience stays connected to the actor. But I also get it's not normal. What's powerful about, and I understand that, but it still feels false. It feels like acting instead of being. So let's say I'm having a hard conversation with someone and I'm trying to leave and they're trying to make me stay. Okay. And so we're having this conversation back and forth, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And I'm explaining why this is hard for me and my heart is breaking. This is not what I wanted, but I cannot stay anymore. Then the eye contact can come and be more powerful to help intensify a moment or help communicate something that you're trying to say, rather than it just being like this and kind of one note. Okay. What if the emotion doesn't come through, like it saying you need to keep looking because the emotion comes through the eyes? Yes, that is true, but it comes through all kinds of other things as well. It comes through feeling. It comes through living with uncomfortable situations. It comes through battling through a feeling that you can't have this conversation or that you don't want to look at someone in the eye. That struggle, that tension can be a really beautiful thing. And to just boil it down to always stay looking eliminates so much more of what makes us human than just showing emotion through the eyes. And my feeling is it isn't an either or proposition. It doesn't mean by not maintaining eye contact, you're going to lose the emotion. No, you can look intently and purposefully into someone's eyes and share with them the emotion of what you're feeling, the intensity of what you're feeling, as opposed to wasting that on moments that then feel forced. Is that making any sense to you guys? I hope it is. It's a tool to be used. And when I say tool, I don't so much mean that you orchestrate it like, on this line, I'm going to look down. On this line, I'm going to look up. On this line, I'm going to look to the side. No, I'm just saying connect internally. If you're talking to someone that you have butterflies with, young love or first love, and you're attracted to them and you're feeling the butterflies, but it's awkward and you don't know what to do, you're not you're physically not going to be able to just look in their eyes. You're going to be uncomfortable. And what I'm saying is, by living with that tension, living with that awkwardness, and allowing us to see that aspect of the human condition, the human experience, is as powerful as what can be said with your eyes. And it's not an either or, because you can look away and be saying internally, like, I really like this person, and this, I don't know what to say, and I'm breathing heavy, my heart's going. And then you can look at them and go, look, I really like you. You can still have both. But in the meantime, we felt the tension, the heart palpitating, the nervousness, so that when you did finally look at them and say, I think you're awesome, it means something. It means more. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. Let me see. Okay, let me go back. Valerie, yeah, same coaches. That's what you talked about with the kid. Exactly. Valerie, working with your kids made me, you and your kids is part of what made me aware that there were coaches that were coaching that way, which was just so surprising to me. Sam, I was taught that everything you do should reveal character and story. So eye contact, or lack thereof, good, can tell a story or show what's going on with the character. Exactly. Lack of eye contact also speaks volumes. It says something about the story. It says something about tension. It says something about awkwardness, or the emotion of what a character's going through, good or bad, right? Adam, along the lines of what is natural, how much specificity and attention to detail, as in business, should we think about in an audition? Can too much be really too much? Yeah, it can be too much. If you have given yourself all kinds of business and well, first of all, as a rule, anything that puts you in your head about dealing with the business, the props, the whatever it is that you've decided to sort of give your hands to do in a scene, if it's drawing you into your head, then it's too much. Okay. But sometimes it can be helpful to just have something that is appropriate for the scene, but also gives you something to do. So I was working with someone on a scene that was from, happened to be from the audition sides from Imagine 2. And the character is, he's in his room, he's struggling. There's some tension with him and his dad at the moment, and he's really into music. So he's kind of just going to that place, trying to find some calm and some peace through the music. Well, that guitar provides the business to give him something to do, and that guitar represents not just, business, but for that character, that's his escape. That's where he goes to find solace or comfort, to work out whatever he's feeling. And so that can become that same tool for the actor within the scene. Sometimes you have to manufacture it. You don't have it in the scene. It doesn't call for something. And so that's a little more difficult, but you still can do that, just in the way that you can think about a memory, and we see that sort of far off stare into something that is deeper than just the immediate room, the physical space. And that becomes a little bit of the business, sort of getting lost in that. So I would not overly complicate a scene with too many things. A scene where someone's going through their purse, like a woman's going through their purse. Maybe they're frantic to find something. Yeah, have a purse or a backpack there and have some things to pull out just to give you that movement and that kind of that real life natural distraction. That can be great. Again, just don't make it so complicated that it puts you up here instead of in here. Okay. Hi, Elizabeth from Ohio. Charles, be careful about the deer in the headlight syndrome because it comes across as you're not listening or you're not taking in what they're saying. It can come across as cold or just not interested in what they're saying. The trick is walk that fine line. And that is very true because someone else's words, what's going on in the scene, the physical environment of a space should affect us. So if we're not showing that it is impacting us in any way, then it does feel like we're disconnected from the fullness of what the scene is. Let's see. Megan, I'm definitely willing to let her try other things. I want nothing more than to be able to tell her, just be real, look down, away if it feels like you need to. Yeah, I would play with that. And I would talk to the coach and be more specific as to why maybe you'd like to try them working with her and finding a balance between what the coach's goal is, which is to communicate the emotion and use the face, but also find a place where she can more naturally communicate whatever is coming up, whatever is feeling. Now, there are times when someone has made a choice to look down and down a lot. So they're really looking down. There are some tricks, technical tricks, as far as being careful, not being mindful of the camera, I guess is what I should say. And you should be mindful that there is a camera and that this is work or a scene or a performance that's being done for the camera, and the camera does matter. So in an audition setting, rather than looking all the way down, which you might in real life look all the way down, you learn to make your gaze a little downward instead of all the way down. It's more downward, but a little out forward, so that we still get that sense of you looking away, but we're not losing you completely. Okay. So that's as you get more and more comfortable with camera work and camera performances, those are the little tricks. Like, you don't go full pro if you set your eye line at a 3/4 instead of at a full 90 degree, so that we don't lose you. We still get you, but we understand that you're talking to someone new over here. Okay. Those are technical tricks that you do want to keep in mind. But I'd still rather have an organic, truthful, honest performance, even if it means every once in a while it's not the most technically perfect. It may feel more grounded and more real. Let's see. Okay, so it's telling me I have new comments. There we go. Okay. Maggie, I love that you're talking about nuances allowed by giving freedom to respond authentically with feeling restricted by it. Yes. Yes. Amen, Maggie. I agree with you. Let's see. If you're using props in an audition, I'd always suggest you have a table or something available to set the prop on, so you have the option to lose it without pulling you out of the scene. Give yourself the ability to stay in it and in frame while using the prop. Yeah, and that's, I think, Maggie, that goes along with what we were talking about, which is set it up so it's not putting you in your head. So if that means having a place where you can easily set it down, get rid of it, if it's feeling like a distraction, or if it no longer is serving its purpose or being helpful, you can just get rid of it and you're not stuck holding it and then going, what do I do with this? Absolutely. It's good to set yourself up for success. Just handle and think through the what ifs or the let me have this just in case sort of scenarios, so that you have less to become an obstacle within the actual scene. Richard, when I finished shooting a scene in an episodic, the director said, cut. He said, Richard, keep that line. I love it. And I said, what line? I didn't realize I had added a line because I was so in the moment. Yeah, see, that's awesome. He had to replay it so I could get the line. That's what AI cannot do. You are absolutely right. AI cannot do that. Because that's a human being who's in character. Exactly. It's so true. And that's the kind of performances that we love, that we respond to. Katie, love this conversation. So insightful. Good. I'm glad. Can you describe a moment where maintaining contact would enhance the scene? Yeah, potentially. If you are in the power seat and you're trying to make someone else feel intimidated or break them down. So I could imagine maybe in an interrogation scene or a confrontation scene where you are trying to get someone to back down or exert power over them, or manipulate them in some way. If you're trying to make them feel uncomfortable, I could see that maintaining sort of an unnatural eye contact could be effective there as a choice. I think anytime you would choose to maintain eye contact with someone, it would be for a specific reason, not because it's the natural thing to do. So if your character is making that choice to affect the other person on purpose, like I said, to intimidate, to maintain power, to manipulate, then I could see that working, because it could definitely make the other person feel uncomfortable, to have that. And the reason, why does it make them feel uncomfortable? Because it isn't natural. So use that as a choice, use that as a creative choice, because the fact that it isn't natural tells us right then and there, it's a tool that can be used. Let's see, Karen Lutz. I love using a prop, even if it's not in frame, as it anchors me and helps me get the attention off of myself. That's very true. And sometimes props can ground you. So I've heard of, even with people who struggle with ADHD. Now, I'm not an expert in this, so there's probably many of you who know more technically, but I've seen scenarios and seen like programs or things that talk about the struggle with ADHD or with autism. And oftentimes there's an object that they can grab and feel, and it grounds them. That the touch of something real can bring their brain back from being all over here and going in a million directions to right here. to feeling like right now, this is a octagon box and I'm feeling the corners of it and the edges of it. I'm feeling that sensation on my fingers, and that brings me back. My mind isn't all over here. It brings me back. And so that can be something that allows you to get centered, brings back focus, gets you back in touch with your humanity, with the reality of touching a real object. It's no longer everything's in your head, but it's the reality of touching, feeling, connecting with a real object that can oftentimes focus you and ground you, remind you of being human. So yeah, whether that's something that you do before a scene or something that a particular thing that you use within a scene, even if it is off frame, that can be a helpful tool, certainly. Let's see. So, okay, so I was saying that I have several kinds of pet peeves. Pet peeves might be a little negative way of saying it, but things I see that I wish I didn't see as much. So the first one is the use of eye contact and this idea that you just stay focused on the person, which it just isn't. It isn't natural. To me, it reads false unless, like we just said with Katie, unless you're deliberately using it as a choice. The other thing is I don't want to see you acting. I want to see you being. So I'm going to quote Alan Powell, who is the director of A Week Away and director, producer, wonderful guy. But I said this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the auditions for the A Week Away series. And he told one of the actors, we were in our director callbacks, and he told the actress, and she was a little accustomed to more of a Disney approach, which is a much broader, expressive, because this is a comedy. And so oftentimes the thought is comedy means bigger and broader. And he needed to pull her down. And so he said, feel it more, show it less. That is, I've now shared that little tidbit with so many people, and now all of you multiple times. Feel it more, show it less. Showing something that you're not actually feeling will read false. You know it. I know it. We know it when we're watching something and they're going through all the motions that seem appropriate, but we're just not feeling it. We're not connecting to them in a real way. And it's because it just doesn't feel authentic. So I would like to see actors, and I'm sure that so many of you do this in your work, and there's so many great actors in our Let's Talk Tuesday family. So I'm not saying that you guys are doing a lot of these things right, but in general, I don't know that enough attention is paid to the emotional beats of a character's journey within a scene. And you guys have seen it before when we've done our monologue nights, which we haven't done in a long time. I need to do that really soon. Diego, make a note. We should schedule a monologue night in a couple weeks. I will stop and say, tell me what you're feeling in this moment. You meaning the character. Tell me what you're feeling as the character in this moment. And the actor will give me 2 minutes of, well, this just happened, and then so-and-so did this, and then what's going to happen next is this. And I listen to it because it kind of amuses me. And then I stop and go, no, what are you feeling? All of that other stuff matters. So when you do your homework and you're figuring out the what, where, why, when, how of a scene, what is it that I want? What are my goals? What's happening in the scene? Where am I? What's my physical space? What am I trying to accomplish? Who is this person? Who are they to me? Like all of that is really important. But in my opinion, if you do not know how you are feeling about a given person or scene or moment or conversation, then we as an audience will be just as lost. And it's interesting to me when I watch an actor do a scene or a monologue, and I'm sitting back watching going, I have no idea what they're feeling. I'm very confused. And then I'll ask the actor, so what is it you're feeling in this moment? And they're just as confused. Well, of course I'm confused because they're confused. So you have got to understand what makes us human. What makes us not robots is our emotional existence, our human existence. That you have to connect with first and foremost. If you are not connecting with the character, with the scene, with the circumstance, with the dialogue at that level, then you're missing a huge opportunity within that scene. That is paramount. I should be able to stop you in the middle of a monologue and say, tell me what you're feeling. And you tell me, I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling angry. And you've heard me talk about this before. And I was just talking with a coaching student today about the emotional wheel. Okay, anger is one. So if you look on the emotional wheel, the inner circle is like the big emotions, right? The big emotions like angry, happy, sad. I don't know what the other ones are in the internal, but then it goes out from there. Okay, the next layer is angry, disappointed, angry, frustrated, angry, betrayed, angry. So they all start with the anger as like the big emotion, but then it breaks down to the sub emotions, the deeper layers of what is angry. Angry can be so many things. So then you break it down to, okay, why am I angry? And then you break that down to, I'm angry because I'm disappointed. And what are you disappointed about? What are you disappointed by? Or how does that disappointment make you feel? Then you go to that next level. Makes me feel worthless. So I'm angry because I'm disappointed, which makes me feel worthless. That's very different than just I'm angry, right? I'm angry because I'm hurt, because I feel abandoned. Very, very different. You've got to go deeper. You've got to keep asking yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that? How does that, what anger? Why am I angry? Then you go to that next level. And then how does that make me feel? You go to the next level. Those are, when we talk about layered performances, that's what we're talking about. And that's how we are as human beings. We are incredibly complex, incredibly layered. We never just feel angry. You don't ever just feel angry. You're always angry because of another emotion. Anger is like the secondary emotion, but the real core of why you're angry is the next level down. So you don't just read a script and go, oh, the character's angry. No, you got to ask, why is the character angry? What's driving that anger? And go to that deeper level, and then go to the deeper level. That understanding will color that. Really connecting with those things will change whether you make eye contact or you don't, or your behavior, whether your heart is racing or it's not, whether you're withdrawn or whether you're in someone's face. Those physicalities, those behaviors come from our emotional core. Our feelings and our emotions drive everything. Everything we do starts with something we are feeling internally. And we cannot forget how important that is. Don't get so caught up in the technicalities of this line, I'll do this, and I'm going to take my glasses off on this line, and I'll put my jacket. No, start first with just the core of these characters. Okay. Katie, we put this quote up in Lainey's audition room. I love it. That's awesome. Katie, yeah, one of my first film classes teacher always made us sit on our hands and stare at each other to do the scene. I was like, I'm paying for this. And see, I know that part of training. So the whole reason that you train is so that it's almost so that you can learn these various skills and you can push yourself and challenge yourself in the rehearsal process, in the training process, so that it becomes so ingrained in you that when it comes to actually doing the work, you can let it go. That's just a part of who you are as an actor, but it's no longer up here. It's just a part of how you integrate those skills and those talents into your work. But it's not technical anymore. It's just internalized and a part of who you are. And so I get it that it's as important to be comfortable maintaining eye contact with someone in a training setting, right? It's almost like you have to learn to be able to hold the eye contact so that in the actual work, you can do both. So that when you need to look at them, when you need to connect, you can. But you also can still be natural and look away and just have a normal human behavior. But you do have to learn the ability or hone the ability to maintain eye contact, even when you're uncomfortable with it, as a training tool, but not a performance tool. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So I see value in that as a training tool. It's just not a performance tool. Chase, what type of projects are you drawn to? What about certain projects make you feel excited and alive? I'm drawn to stories I can relate to, whether it's, it could be a period piece, it could be a modern day piece. That part isn't necessarily the issue. It's am I going on a journey with someone that I care about? Am I challenged by this character or this story, or am I inspired by them? And even if it's a really fun, playful comedy, am I experiencing the joy of going on this journey with them? I just like stories. I like character-driven stories. I'm not as into the big, like the Marvel movies, the big special effects driven movies are not as much my thing, because I am more moved by the heart experience and the human experience than I am by the technical astonishments that come. The best is when you get both, right? You get the best of both worlds, and you have great human stories, great real heart level stories, and then you can get all of the special effects as well. But It's a rare movie where you do get both, in my opinion. But as far as what I'm naturally drawn to, it's the things that challenge me or make me think or um, move me as a human, move my heart. Yeah, those are the ones. True stories. I love true stories because you can't argue with a true story, especially when it comes to faith content. Um, I think some of the challenges of the fiction-based faith stories is there is a tendency for them to potentially be a little too simple and a little too easy. And I think it's easier for the viewer, especially if the viewer is skeptical at all, it's easier for the viewer to write it off as, oh, that would never happen, or that's just Christianese, or that's just, oversimplifying a story. But when it's a story where a real miracle happened to them, um, a real situation, a real challenge that they overcame, I can't I can't write it off and say, oh, that didn't happen. God didn't do that miracle. I have to contemplate then, wow, this person had a miracle in their life. What do I do with that? What do I think about that? And of course, I'm a person of faith, so I believe that, and I'm even more um, inspired and reminded that we have a God of miracles, that we have a God who loves us that much, who loves us and cares for us that much. We have a God who sees us through grief. And those kinds of stories where you're seeing someone's real journey, you can't just write it off and say, no, that doesn't happen. God doesn't do miracles. You have to contemplate it and decide what you think about it. And writing it off as fiction is not one of those options. So that's one of the reasons I really like true stories for stories of faith, because you can't argue with someone's real life experience. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but you can't argue with it and say it didn't happen or it's not true or God didn't do that. So you're left with, okay, God did this for this person. What do I think about that? And I think that can really bring about some important conversations. And I think it can also challenge us personally to think differently in those instances. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I talked about those two pet peeves. I thought I had a third one, but of course I didn't write it down and now I can't remember what it was. Those are probably the biggest though, to be honest. I think that if you, and really the second one, as far as the feel more, show less, kind of addresses the first issue of the eye contact issue. If you're really in the scene and in the moment, don't underestimate and don't forget about the physiological response your body has to certain stimulus. Okay. So I was working with a young actor yesterday, and he had a scene where it's the two high schoolers, and they kind of like each other, but they've not admitted it, and it's a scene leading up to like a kiss. And so I was talking to this young actor, and I said, what would your body be doing right now? And he thought about it. It was like, my heart would be racing, my heart would be pounding, and that would lead to a change in your breathing pattern, and there'd be a nervousness and uncomfortableness, and so keep that in mind. If you are starting a scene where you've just run into a room, but you start it and you're not out of breath, you're not affected by that physiological truth of what it is to run into a scene and jump into a conversation, that feels less, it's less effective than someone who understands that connection and gets it and comes running into the scene out of breath because they just ran in and they're trying to tell you something. And as we're watching performances like that, excuse me, as we're watching performances like that, those are the little things that make us say, oh, that actor knows what they're doing. That actor thought about this. That actor really gave this some thought to understand all of that. The temperature of a room. Are you cold? Are you hot? Are you uncomfortable? Are your clothes comfortable? So I was talking again in one of the coaching sessions about, if you're trying to maybe get yourself out of your comfort zone, and you typically are a pretty cool guy, pretty hip guy, but you have to play a character that's maybe more button up and a little more, I don't know, OCD or preoccupied or quirky. How about putting on a collared shirt that the neck is a size too small? So do you have the physicality of like, oh, this color's driving me crazy. And it's that feeling of I'm not comfortable with this and I want this off. And that adds a layer to the performance, but gives you this thing that kind of like the prop we were talking about that grounds you, but feeds to the character. You can make those choices sometimes with a wardrobe choice or a prop choice, that can shift and alter, because the physical part of it, the physiological part of how your body responds to a neckline that's too tight, helps feed the scene in a way that's super interesting. I think it was you, Chase. Chase Giacomo. I was talking about Helen Mirren and the Queen, and she was struggling to sort of lock in the physicality of the Queen, and she just wasn't quite getting that sort of thing where she could just automatically step into it and go, until she tried on the shoes. She tried on the shoes and put on the wardrobe, but even just the shoes sort of made her stand differently, and they made her walk differently. And that became kind of the trigger for her to embody the character. Stepping into the shoes helped her to connect with what that did to her whole body, her posture, her gait, her pace of walking. There's a lot of ways you can do that, that can help feed a character because of its connection physiological to your human body. So that's another aspect. That's a layer that really, really good actors, don't forget about that layer. What would my heart be doing here? Would I be breathing heavy? Would I not be? Would I be holding my breath? Have you ever had a situation where you realize you're holding your breath and you didn't even, like, you catch yourself holding your breath and you didn't even realize you were? I've found it most often, like if I'm watching a movie or something and I'm just so intense, I find myself holding my breath and then I let it out. Little things like that, really being in touch physically with that part of your body, the physiological response to stress or joy or nervousness, any of those things. What is our body's natural response to that? Again, these are all the layers that just make a good performance great. The layers that set apart, like I said, the good from the great. It makes a huge difference, even though these are small, seemingly small little things, but it can make a huge difference in the final performance. So, okay, so I've managed to talk about pet peeves for almost an hour. Don't ever ask, what are your pet peeves? No, but really, these are just things that I see in performances that make a huge difference, that I think sometimes are underestimated their value or forgotten about. In the quest to be perfect, realize there's no perfect performance. No perfect performance. If any of you guys, man, I loved this clip. So I've been finding some great little golden gems that I've been reposting on my Instagram stories. And one of them was Christopher Walken. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Steven Spielberg in Catch Me If You Can said that so every single take with Christopher Walken is different. He never does it the same way twice, always fresh. So they showed him doing a scene at the table with Leonardo DiCaprio. He plays the dad, and they're at a table in this really, really nice restaurant, and he begins to talk about how he met his wife and what it was like when he met his wife. And the first two takes, he emphasizes the words a little differently. And then the third take, out of nowhere, with no one prompting him, he literally just broke down in tears talking about his wife, because by this point in the story, they're separated and they're not together anymore. So there's a mourning in that choice that there's a mourning in that choice that we feel as he's describing this love that he felt for her. We're also understanding the loss and him maybe remembering or appreciating her in a way maybe he hadn't been doing for a while. And it's really powerful. And Valerie, wouldn't that be bad for continuity though? It can be from the standpoint of cutting together two different scenes. Now, if you look at that clip, I encourage you to go look at that clip. The first two would easily cut together. They're a different pacing and a different emphasis, kind of on different words, but they would cut together into a full conversation easily. The crying one was just him exploring a different part of it. And what came out of it was this beautiful golden moment. That's what ended up in the movie. And so when you have to be sensitive to the director and what they're looking for, in a scene where it's your scene and it's your monologue and it's your moment, that's very different than when you're more of a utility character that needs to feed what the other character needs to do, what they're doing. So you have to be mindful of what that scene is about, what you're trying to accomplish. But I would still tell you, by being present in the scene and by being emotionally connected in a scene, if that's what happens, let it happen. It may be the gold that no one knew to ask for. Spielberg didn't even think of that approach, and it ended up being what was in the movie. So he wouldn't have known to ask him to do that because he never thought of it that way. So by being connected in a real way, he took it to a place that felt so human and so appropriate. They went on, I'm sure, to do other takes, and I'm guessing you probably didn't cry in the other take. So, but if that's what happens, and if that's what comes organically, let it come. Don't fight it because you're trying to be technical. Let it come, let it go. And the director will tell you if there's bumpers that need to be in place, if there's sort of boundaries that need to be in place, they'll let you know that. They'll tell you that. But I believe they will always appreciate an emotionally connected and grounded performance over a technical performance any day. Let's see. It's already Wednesday morning here in Finland. So good morning in Finland. So glad that you're joining us. We're at the end of our time together, though. So Sven, Eric, hopefully you can go back and listen to the beginning of this. But so yeah, there's so much we can explore, but because of my work in the coaching, it's just some of the things that are coming out and are sort of reoccurring thoughts that I've been having. And speaking of the coaching, just so you know, there's a lot of different things we can do in the coaching. And sometimes it's literally just pulling monologues, working on monologues for the purpose of just stretching you as an actor, maybe choosing something that kind of scares you a little bit, or something that maybe you're wondering if you could do that kind of a character, or if you could challenge yourself in a way that you don't typically get the opportunity to do. That's something we can do from a training standpoint, from just a work standpoint. Coaching for actual auditions that you have coming up is great. Do a lot of talking through reels and what's working and what's not, and how to maximize your reel, and of course headshots, what we're looking for, how to best kind of put your best looks forward, and what catches our eye, what are the important elements of a headshot, and then just general career. I'm here. How do you think we go to the next level? What are some things I can do? It really is very, very personalized to you. So yeah, if that sounds like something you feel like you could benefit from, then let's spend some time together. I love being able to spend time with you guys individually as well. So theanthemcollective.com/coaching. And I honestly don't know what spots are open, but just know that we're now just opening them a couple months at a time, so that we don't get filled up for forever, and then it gets discouraging. But a couple of months, I think we're booking through the end of July, and then we'll open up and do the next couple months after that. So only 5 spots left in June. There you go. And so but then we'll open again, and July has openings, and then we'll open up the later months after that. So anyway, love you guys. Love spending time with you. Thanks for chatting with me and for giving me feedback too. And I love that. When I'm sharing something and sharing my thoughts, I'm happy to have you telling me what your experience is, or that, hey, I had a coach tell me I should do the opposite, and this is why that coach told me that. That's great. That's good information that's helpful for me to maybe understand a different point of view. This is a dialogue. Of course, you're not here with me in person, but through our comments and things, I want this to always be a collaborative dialogue. So, and I'll get with Diego about scheduling one of our monologue nights. I'd be excited to do that. We haven't done it in a while. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on what's happening next. And I hope you guys have an amazing week. And remember, today is Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. During weeks like this, I have to literally wake up in the morning and go, okay, what day is it? So anyway, love you guys. Love just seeing you and your comments and your engagement. And I just think you are incredible people. And I'm so, so grateful that we have a connection and a community together. So have a great night. Love you.